Hello, hello, hello. Yolanda Perry here at Yolanda Worldwide. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I want to first say welcome to anybody who's joining me as a replay viewer. I'm so glad you're here, y'all. I'm taking over the airport right now. Listen, I am taking over the airport right now. But I just want to go ahead and say welcome to you. I'm so excited. This is going to be a brief conversation, but I wanted to do this conversation. I am going to be chatting with you with my spiritual father. He'll be here in just a moment. I thought I'd go ahead and get started. I have been long awaiting to have a little bit of a conversation with him and the people concerning covenant relationships. It's something that I think needs to be talked about a little bit more in the body of Christ, so that people can have an understanding of what that actually means. So I'm incredibly excited to be talking with you all about that today and sharing a little bit of my relationship with my spiritual father as well. Those of you who are here, let me know if you can hear me okay. Tell me if you can hear me okay. I'm looking at him. He's over there shopping. But he'll be here. He'll be here momentarily. He's trying to get his little last minute stuff here at the airport. I need to do that as well. But I'm so glad you're here. As you're jumping on, go ahead and greet me in whatever way you do in your part of the world. Let me know where in the world you are joining me from. And please help me to share this broadcast today. Help me to share this broadcast today. I don't think I can share it myself. I'll have to share it after. It'll be well. But let me know if you can hear me. Okay, you can hear me fine. Thank you. Please pardon me if we get overhead noise, because we are in the airport, so they may be announcing flights and different things in the middle of this. But we're going to have a quality conversation. So I'm right now, just to kind of just let you know, I'm right now getting ready to leave Belize. And if you saw my post, I might owe Belize something, because Belize owes me nothing this trip. I have come here for many years. Well, I say many, 7 years is many. I have come here for many years for ministry. I have had some downtime in another area. This is the first time that I've come to the or I went to San Pedro, which is where I was until this morning. And when I tell you, it has been an incredible visit here in the nation of Belize. Hello, from Tacoma, Washington. I hope I can see your comments. Because of how my screen is, I'm not going to be able to see all of your comments, but hopefully I get to see them as they come up. But definitely keep greeting me in whatever way you do in your part of the world, letting me know where you're actually joining me from. So just to kind of let you know what's going to happen here today, we are having basically an impromptu conversation about covenant relationships. We haven't rehearsed anything. We haven't talked about anything. We're just gonna, a whole tractor is going by. We are just gonna talk just candidly about relationships and covenant relationships in particular. We were gonna do this yesterday, but our day got so busy, and he was like, "Are you sure you don't want to do it tonight?" And I was like, "No, I don't want to do it tonight after dinner. I wanted to wait." And plus it was going to be really late in the U.S. as well. But I'm glad I waited, because I think that, this is going to definitely be a better setting. But for those of you who are here, again, go ahead, help me to share this broadcast. And then I'll tell you some things that as we're waiting. Hopefully it doesn't pop up on me. Let me give you a couple of announcements. One, if you're not a part of my Focus Fasting group, make sure you join that. I will be leading a 7-day fast, Focus Fasting for Spiritual Freedom. I'll be leading a 7-day fast beginning this upcoming Monday. So make sure you join the Focus Fasting group and you get to be a part of that. It's going to be powerful. And so when you join the group, you'll get all of the instructions for that. The second thing I want to tell you about is, if you have not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, I am live every single morning, Monday through Friday, every week. I am live for what we now call morning stir. And boy, do we get stirred up on the morning stir. It has been absolutely powerful. You can actually go back to the playlist and find all of the different ministry times that I've been there. And God has been speaking to us loudly during the morning stir. And sometimes the Holy Spirit comes on. Sometimes I'm a weeping mess. We are laughing. We have family time. All sorts of things happen on the morning stir. So if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you do that. That's where I'm going to be. And when we are focused fasting for spiritual freedom, I'm going to be live every single morning for the morning stir. And I'll be expounding for the 7-day fast in and of itself. So that's going to be a blessing. So there's lots of content and different things there. But guys, as I'm waiting, and my spiritual father is going to, I don't know what he's going to say. So let me just start kind of talking. It'll be probably some interesting things that'll come up during the time that he's here. So for myself, for those of you who do not know me, Prophetess Yolanda Perry, aka Yolanda Worldwide, been here on this page here for quite some time. I used to be Speak to My Heart by Yolanda. That's what this page used to be. And then the Lord had me to change the name to Yolanda Worldwide because I am called to the nations. So with that, as I have been in 2016, I met my spiritual father. I was in a meeting. He didn't know anything about me. We did not know each other. But in that meeting, the Lord said that he was my spiritual father. And I was like, I'm not going to tell this man that. This man travels the world preaching the gospel. I'm not going to tell this man that. I wrote it in my journal, however, and I've shared that before. And then I began to follow him from place to place, just gleaning from him. I never told him that I was his spiritual daughter. And as you would have it, he didn't know, and we laugh about it now. We'll talk about it. I'm going to tease with him when he's here. I tease and say he disowned me because he didn't know what I was about. He didn't know why I was showing up at all of these meetings, but the Lord had already told me who he was in my life. And now when the Lord speaks a word to you, you got to take that word seriously. It wasn't a word that I made up. It wasn't a word that somebody gave me. It was a word that the Lord specifically gave to me, that he was my spiritual father. So for me, I absolutely could not now make it be something else. And now with any type of relationship, there could be challenges. We haven't had any challenges to date, but we're humans. So in life, we may end up having some challenges, but to me, that doesn't now give me a pass to say, okay, I'm over it. He's no longer my spiritual father. I'm very serious about not what he told me, but what the Lord told me. And then it took for the Lord, before he owned me, the Lord told him in prayer that I was his spiritual daughter and said some other things about me, that I would always be a blessing to his life. And I endeavor to do just that, to always be a blessing to his life. I am not a perfect daughter. I can be one of those ones that you really don't understand and you got to figure out, and I may repeat some of this while he's here, and I'm probably going to ask him questions like, he doesn't know this, I'm probably going to ask him the question like, what's been most challenging about connecting with me as a spiritual daughter? I'm going to ask him an easy question like, what's been the easiest thing about connecting with me as a spiritual daughter? But I am going to ask him a hard question. Y'all, he don't know. I'm going to ask him the hard question. What's been the most challenging thing connecting with me as a spiritual daughter? So all of those things, I can't wait to hear what he says because we've never had this conversation before. But nevertheless, I have been blessed now to travel the world with him. I have been blessed by him to go travel the world, go to the nations, and do all that God has called me to do. And so I'm grateful that the Lord has sustained me. And to date, we are 8 years into our apostolic alignment and I will say about 7 years as spiritual father, spiritual daughter, because that didn't get solidified immediately. Maybe even about 6 years. I can't remember at what point he actually got it and connected with what I had already gotten from the Lord. But it has been an incredible journey. One of the things that I love more than anything is that he's the same person that I met 8 years ago. Well, it was 8 years ago that we came to Belize, so it's been longer that we knew each other. But no, 7 years since we came to Belize. But what I love is that he is consistent. He is consistent, and it's easy to follow him. I consider him to be like a roadmap and watching his life. And even since I've been here in Belize on this trip, which wasn't a trip that I even had planned to go on, but when he reached out and said he was coming this time, almost kind of like, you know, you can come on this trip too, I made the plans, and I'm so glad, because I had something else going on, but I'm glad I made the plan. And I made a mention in a post earlier that this is a trip that I didn't even know that I needed. And so even being on this trip, even in the downtime, I found myself gleaning and watching him in action. And that's the thing about spiritual parenting. You can learn so much from your spiritual parents. I'm telling you, it has been incredible. Oh, Chris and Deb, it's so good to see you on. I see you. I am so glad I came as well, because even though I had a very, very short window of time with you guys, I always have such a great time when we get together. But it's good. Listen, do you all have any questions that you want to ask of him when he gets here? He's in the store shopping, by the way. He'll be over here in a minute. I'm watching for when he comes out of the store, but he'll be over here in a moment. Do you all have any questions that you would want to ask of me about my relationship with him, or any questions you would want to ask of him about his relationship with me? You can go ahead and put that in the comments now, and I'll try to find those when we get to a Q&A. You may have to copy and paste it, I don't know, but I want to kind of feel out some of those questions that you might have. But God is good, y'all. I am a living witness that being connected to and aligned with the right person can really catapult your life. I've had a good life, but I say it like this: I'm not satisfied with that, because God promised me a great life. He didn't tell Abraham, I will give you a good name. He said, I will make your name great. And so I'm standing on that promise from God that I will have a great name and a great life, and not just a good life. And so I'm totally excited about what God is going to do, even in this conversation. So he's on the way right now. Can't wait to introduce you to him. It's going to be amazing. Hello. I'm already on. I told them you're shopping it up.
Yeah, actually I was on the hunt for coffee. Iced lattes were hard to find in the Belize airport today.
Listen, the man has arrived. The Apostle Ryan Lestrange. I was giving them a little bit of backdrop about how we got connected, and they know we're going to just talk a few moments about covenant relationships. And in particular, when I came into relationship with you, it wasn't even anything I was seeking out at that particular time. And what I shared with them is that I specifically heard God say in that first meeting we were in together, having never met you, that you were my spiritual father.
Yeah.
And I remember writing in my journal, because I was hearing the Lord say, reach out to your spirit. And I'm like, I'm not telling that man that. God, you have to tell him. So I never ever said to him that he was my spiritual father. I waited until he got it in prayer. But the important point that I want to take away from this conversation, and for people to take away from this conversation, is the value behind covenant relationships. And what I'm sharing, what I'm finding is that people are taking lightly what covenant relationship is. When I think about it like this: when Jesus took the cup and he drank it, he said, this is as the New Testament, the new covenant I made with you. So what he did that day, it wasn't going to go away if something happens, if we do something wrong or whatever. He made a covenant with us, and we should follow suit with him. When it comes to relationships, This isn't covenant relationships. You don't get to just turn those on and turn those off.
Right.
And so that's what I kind of want to unpack just a little bit here on this broadcast. So tell me, what do you feel like covenant, or what does covenant relationship mean to you?
I think to me, it means you have to discern this is a God-established relationship. And I think what I see is so many people, they're looking for affirmation. They're looking for, I saw Pastor Ryan talk about spiritual fathers. Boom, I need to check this off my list. It's never that. It's always a process, and it has to be discerned. Like, God established and sent this. And I think if you just try to do it with this, it always falls short.
And what I found is, when I see people that say they're in covenant relationship, when they're struggling with things within the relationship, that's when we seem to see some of these relationships go south.
Yeah, they do.
This is my perspective. I spoke with Mom Joy about this. What I view as covenant relationship, as far as spiritual fathers, spiritual children, I view it even like I did do with my natural parents. And my parents are gone to heaven, so I say it in that way. And I think about some things that happen with my natural father in life. He's not perfect. We're human.
Right.
So we're going to make mistakes. So my father made some pretty big mistakes in our lives. But he didn't get to not be our father. We didn't get to say, oh, well, you're not my dad anymore because I'm mad at this thing that you did. Why do you think it is that we treat it so casually in covenant relationships that God brings to us, that we think that because of something somebody does, all of a sudden we have to fall out of love with them and we're no longer connected with them?
I think it's two things. I think it's soul trauma, and I think it's improper expectations. So, when I connected to my spiritual father, Dr. Norval Hayes, and I'm connected to Apostle Eckhart now, but I've distinguished in my mind that Dr. Hayes was my spiritual father who birthed me in the ministry, framed me, formed me. There were many others who influenced me, but he was the primary. So even with Apostle John, I don't really bring that same terminology, because to me it's a bit of a different relationship.
Right.
He's definitely a leader to which I'm accountable, but I have clarity on that. So I think that when I was connected with Dr. Hayes, as you said, there was imperfections on both sides of the relationship. I was very young. I didn't even know what that looked like.
Right.
He was traveling the world. So much of what I've seen people that try to relate to me get offended over, I would have been out with him the first week, because he never said, oh, you want to be my spiritual child? Sit down. I'm going to have a mentoring session. No, he was traveling all over the world. Right. So I had to early on learn to follow him and pursue him. And I think my expectation was not, he's going to meet with me every week or every day. So I think those false expectations are really big. A spiritual relationship, a covenant relationship, whether that's a peer, a sibling, a leader, they're not going to solidify every wound you've got, every trauma you've got. And if you come into viewing it that way, you're going to be sorely disappointed. And I think, like what you said, all relationships generate friction, and not all friction is bad, because we never grow without friction.
Absolutely.
So one of the things I like to say, if you put an apostle and a prophet together, they're usually, maybe that's a bad example because they have a lot of similarities, but the prophet is going to be like, we need to pray more, we got to get more revelation, or the apostle like, we got enough, we need to build now. And there will be friction, and it's real easy to vilify that person. Well, that apostle, they've lost their anointing because they don't pray as much as I pray, or they're not seeing what I'm seeing. Conversely, if you take a highly pastoral person, they may feel like, an apostle's like, no, we're not going to act that way. We got to get up and build. That really pastoral person might be like, wait a minute, I don't feel like they're loving enough. And they're really a lot of times expressing emotional love rather than spiritual love. So I think expectations and soul trauma, those are the two biggest things. And then lastly, I think you have to mature personally. So I can only relate to you on the level of maturity I have. As I could easily talk about, if we look at this, I could talk about leaders, those serving. And as a leader, I could easily be like, they need to get themselves together. Let's not do that. And let's talk about up here, me. I have many times mishandled relationships. You've been in my life for a long time. And you've seen me walk through things, and sometimes probably been like, I'm praying for him. Sometimes, because I could get mad. I could get in the flesh. And I've had to sometimes go back to people and say, hey, the thing that you did, it was worthy of correction, but the manner in which I corrected you or my response was not well. Yeah. And I think it's just really immature to think in any relationship we're all just going to arrive at it with complete clarity and maturity. We all have to mature, leaders and followers. So I think those are the reasons why people just drop these relationships.
Wow. You said something really good, and that's something that I've observed myself over the years, that even when you had things that happen in relationships and that you are able to go back and say, like most people, they kind of avoid if they did something wrong or said something wrong. But I've personally seen you say, if somebody said, well, I heard you say this, and you said, well, yes, I did say that because I was really mad at that time. And some people can't respect that, but really, I think that's more respectable than to pretend like you don't have an offense rather than to just go ahead and deal with it, because it doesn't allow you to move forward. And not only does it affect that relationship, but if you can't deal with it, it affects other relationships as well, because then you're guarded because of what you're still struggling with in some of those other relationships. And we have an overhead going on. They know that we're here in the airport. So
it's travel. But thank God for the coffee.
Yeah, travel edition. So what advice would you give to people who are in those compromising positions with leadership or a spiritual parent, and they're figuring out how to connect, they're not getting what they want? What would you say to the leader who has, I'll do it from this side, because it's easy to say the people who are expecting something from a leader. What would you say to a leader who has people who are expecting something from them that they don't necessarily have to give, and is causing a problem in trying to build the relationship on both sides?
That's so good. I think if you're a leader, I love what the example you gave, and I have done that many times, not only individually to say, I could have handled this better. I've done it on here. People, if you follow me for years, you've surely seen me come out and reflect on things. I've always felt honesty is the best policy. My mother instilled that in me before she was a Christian, honestly. So I lead that way. I'm a big honesty person, even if that's going to hurt you. I'd rather be honest and hurtful than dishonest and you feel good, but I'm lying to you. So I think that for a leader, when you know that you're not able to give what's being asked of you, you've got to come forth with honesty. And, you know, I always tell people this. When they come to me and say, I feel like you might be my spiritual father, I usually say, let's wait and let's connect on some level and let's let it unfold. Because people will get 6 months in and be like, oh God, I made a mistake. And I don't want them to do that. And then I tell them, I'm not a super personable person. So I'm not like, I have family members I haven't talked to in 5 years. I'm not going to be a one to call you every day. I tell them that, hey, here's the way that I proceed. Here's the way that I lead. Here's what I feel I can bring to you. Here's what I feel I can't. And usually in their zeal, oh yeah. But then as it unfolds, they may have expectations that are unmet. So I try to be super honest. Don't ever feel like as a leader that you should be all things to all people, because when you're not yourself, you're going to lead from a weakened position. I would rather see you show up as you than somebody else. When you show up as somebody else, you're always going to fail. So I just try to give them an honest appraisal of what I can bring to the table. Now, if the insufficiency is something that's really like bad, like it needs to be, okay, I'm insufficient in that I'm not walking in love, then that's when I got to go look at what is the process for me to get from here to there, and be open about the process. Y'all, I'm working on patience. I mean, I've been working on patience for 20 years. I'm still working on patience. I just kind of got impatient over there at one of the shops, so y'all pray for me today, okay? But I think you do self-appraisal, right? And say, I'm growing in this area, and lead from that, because really spiritual fathers and sons and mothers and daughters, we should all be growing together. And I think a huge thing is we have an expectation of people. You know, I told my son, you have children, so you know that you can relate to this. I said, son, you didn't come with a manual. So I know you think because I'm older than you, I've got it figured out. I'm still learning this thing. And I think if you're an apostle, you don't have like, we have the Bible obviously, but it's not like, here's how to father John. No, it doesn't. You're growing into it. You're learning. And so I think we've got to be more honest about this as leaders. That's really important.
Yeah. And, you know, I think the other thing is I think some people get tripped up over people and them getting and offenses, and the way people handle offenses. I think it just costs us so much time and aggravation. I look at it like this. We're natural. People are going to do things that's offensive.
Yes.
Because we're natural.
Yes.
But how you respond to the offense is for you to handle.
Well, that's so good. Yeah.
It's like I'm not responsible for managing and stewarding your offense. You're just natural, so you do something. And I have to look at it, are you really wanting to do something to hurt me? More often than not, people are not trying to hurt each other. They're just acting out of their human nature. And we have to be able to process that. So how I process that is totally up to me. And I think, and we have to stop, like I said, stuffing it, stewing on it, taking it to different people, because by the time you got it grows, and then you have more of a mess to deal with. And so I think that this conversation is really, really good. We're not going to unpack it all here, by the way, but you said so much good stuff. But we're going to make this fun for a second. Now, I told them, I said, when I came into your life, you disowned me.
We're telling the whole story today.
He disowned me. But I had to wait patiently, and it was up to me as to whether I was going to feel like, oh, it seems like he's talking to all the other people, he's doing this. I've never felt like he slighted me or anything. And contrary to what many people believe, they think that I spend all this time around him, and I don't. As a matter of fact, it took us almost 2 years.
We're spending more time here in Belize than we do in Georgia.
Yeah, we do. 100%. But I told him I'm going to ask 2 questions, and you don't know what they are. I ask an easy question, I'm going to ask a hard question.
Okay, let's go.
What has been the easiest thing about me to connect with me as a spiritual daughter?
I think your expectations, they're very realistic. And so you come into my life, you're not a person that's asked for a lot. And that could probably sound bad, because it's not that asking is bad, but some people come into your life. Can you be on 4 lives a week? Can you preach at 3 conferences? Can you write this? Can you do this? None of which I mind doing, right? But when you do as much as I do, it's difficult. So really your expectations are so rational. They're so reasoned. And what we've developed has been honestly because you've been present. And I think this is one of the biggest things that I see people do. And nobody told me this when I was 17 when I went to Dark Days, so I don't even know how I got it, but somehow I intuitively knew if I want what he's got, I got to show up. It's not his responsibility to give it to me. And let me say that some of you may get a spiritual father that's got a small church of 40, and they have a lot of time. And we were discussing this on this trip. Where you are in life, sometimes you just don't have certain things that you can give. Like your schedule is crazy, as is mine. So I don't I don't call you, oh, Prophet Yolanda, can you write 4 Facebook posts for me? So can you do this? Can you do that? Because I know your schedule. So I think the realistic expectations and you just being present, that's been very helpful.
Awesome. Okay. You heard it, Tay. He can never take it back, right? Okay, so the second question. What has been the hardest thing to connect with me?
Wow. I may be really
That's
stumped.
a good problem.
Okay, I got it. But it's actually a good thing. You not always blanket agreeing with me.
Okay.
And so to unpack this, we've had some real challenges, not us ever, but people in our sphere, right? Mm-hmm. Issues, things. And I would be, because if y'all follow me know, like I'm passionate, right? And I would say, if you see a preacher that sweats and screams when they preach, they can bring that same energy outside of preaching. So something dicey would happen and I'd be like, I'm ready to do a live about so-and-so. And Yolanda would be like, Dad, you don't need to say nothing. And I'm like, that's easy for you to say. They ain't talking about you. Don't say nothing. We always call it, Mom Joy and I call it no drama, Yolanda. So I think that because like you would show up and I know you. At the end of the day, if I go out and make a fool of myself, you're going to pray for me.
I'm still going to support.
But you really bring your own perspective and individuality.
Yeah.
And so it's not a rubber stamp.
Yeah.
And that's not maybe like the diciest thing, but that's really the only thing I can think of is that I think you bring that individuality, and sometimes it doesn't agree, and you don't mind being like, nah. You know, I told like one of my other spiritual daughters, who's very well known now, she does not agree with me on many things, and we've had very difficult conversation to process through, but it's bonded us. And I think the same with you and I.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Listen, somebody said no drama, Yolanda. I try. But I still support. If he goes, then he'd be like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I'd be like, well, the Lord is going to make it okay. The Lord is, and he always, because your heart is always in the right place. And that's the thing that I look at. Do you have any questions for me?
Sure. I think if someone watching this, they're searching and seeking out this type of relationship, what's the top thing they might do that would sabotage it as a person following a leader?
Okay. The top thing that would sabotage it is to try to make the relationship. The easiest way to make the relationship work is to just come and be. Don't come and expect, come to glean and come to be. One of the things that I've always done, like different places where I've shown, you didn't even know I was going to be there. I watched your calendar like I watched mine, and I had a whole schedule surrounding your calendar. I show up, no expectation. I just get the hotel room, get the car. I didn't even expect a ride from you. I just show up and coming to glean. And one of the things that I realized about you early on was that you didn't expect me to be anybody but who I was. And so I wasn't trying to figure out who I needed to be with you. And it made it easy for our relationship to work. Because I remember even in the earlier days when I came in, you didn't know that I had this thought. I was like, I'm not telling him I'm a prophet. God, I want you to tell him I'm a prophet so that he can be confirmed and affirm that. So I never ever once told you I was, and it was in beliefs. And we had now been connected for over a year before I ever heard you say that. And then when you said it, then I was like, yes, I am. And you said to me, oh, because I've been wondering all this time what you thought you were. And I'm like, I'm waiting for you to tell me to do it. But I just came in and I was who I was. I didn't try to change. I didn't try to be one person one way and one person the other way. The best thing that you can do, be you, be consistent. Be consistent. I'm not a different Yolanda today. I'm different in the aspect that I've grown in the things of God. I've grown in how I present myself and different things like that. But as far as the core of who I am, I'm the same person I was when I met you. As with you, you are the same person that I met then. People can't follow something that's one way today and another. You know, one of the things that I told you for your birthday is that I see you as a roadmap that I can follow. I don't have to come and ask you all the questions. Yeah. Because a lot of times, don't try to take up all of your leader's time. Because more often than not, when you're asking all those questions, you're not really looking for an answer. You're looking for validation. So take that off of the table and just be. You can learn so much just by following and gleaning, and I think that is valued more than anything. And that's one of the things that you and Mom Joyce say to me whenever we talk or whatever, and tell me is, how I handle you all in the relationship. Some of the times, do you remember in the early days that I used to tell you, I used to text you and say, you owe me a rebuke. You haven't rebuked me in a long time. There's got to be something you can give me to make me better. Because I value that, but I value what you carry. And the way that I can show that is to not take from you, but to give to you. I should add to you and not take away from you. And
I think that's the honor principle.
I don't have it. No, I don't have it. No, we're doing a broadcast right now.
And now I forgot. The man of God asked us for one of the staff members. I think that's a real thing that people struggle with, is that when we are asking for so much input, but we're not contributing, because contribution is an honor principle. And you can't drink from a well that you don't recognize. So I think it's really important throughout my life, and I practice this not just with people above me. I practice this with peers, with really anybody, people traveling with me, y'all. Like, I'll just be like, I wanna buy this thing for you, or I wanna do this for you, I wanna do that, because I recognize the only way I increase in life is by honoring others. And so, as a leader, when you have people that are honorable, they really enact a flow. And dishonorable people, like, sometimes people will be dishonorable and you won't even know it naturally, but there'll be an internal withdrawing. And it's something as a person you got to work through and get right. We just had a situation that there was a person that was in kind of a difficulty in life. And when I was told about the conversation they were having, it was very dishonorable. And I was like, wait a minute, how do you be in a difficulty and then take time to critique everybody else? Because you got a whole thing going on. And I was telling somebody, that's a poverty principle. Because when you are a dishonorable person, and let me say this, there's a lot of honorable people that still need their economy to come up. So I'm not bringing condemnation to anybody. But dishonor, a lot of times, it partners with the spirit of sabotage, which will keep whatever you're doing struggling, including economy. So when I start to be honorable, I enact prosperity principles. And that's not just economic, that's soul prosperity, that's relational prosperity. If I'm honorable in relationships, like God really dealt with me this year, because I tend to be a person that can be reactive. That man came over with the thing, I'm like, what you doing over here? So I have to work on, like, don't react, right? And I think that sometimes somebody will, like, tell me, oh, this preacher that you love, they were out here running these streets. And I would be like, that's terrible, and I'm reacting to it. And the Holy Spirit was like, Ryan, you need to be so cautious, even about people you don't know, just not to immediately give your thought or your opinion, because sometimes you're sowing a seed of dishonor. And even like people who, and I know this to go against the TikTok generation, but even people like that, maybe they're struggling, maybe they're a leader that is in sin. It's like, how do I know that and pray for them, but not really engage a high level of dishonor, because I don't want to stay stuck. So I think what you're saying, the honor you've brought in, it's caused God, not Ryan, God, to do things in your life. And that's a huge takeaway. If you're trying to get from here to here, honor is going to be a critical catalyst for that.
And on that note, you just hit on that, and we can round out this. Alignment is so very important.
Absolutely.
Alignment is so very important. I am crystal clear. No, God is responsible for everything that's happening in my life. But this alignment was important to take me to where I was supposed to go. And I've had some good leaders in my life prior to meeting you, but they were local leaders. They were local leaders. They were not global leaders. I knew that I was called to the nations. And it wasn't until I got into this alignment that my ministry went to the nations. So now, if that is what took me to the nations, what is going to sustain me in the nations? Maintaining that proper alignment is so very important. The flow that comes through my life, it's easy because of the alignment. And I've seen many people prematurely break alignments. And if you look at the track record of their lives, you don't see them fulfill. I can see the potential in certain people, and I know that they have not gotten to their kingdom potential because they're not properly aligned, or they're not in alignment with who they should be connected to in the season.
And I think, like, looking at your life, I was telling Tay, who's with us, that when I met you, you were working a regular job, which nothing wrong with that. Praise God for a good job. But God supernaturally propelled you. And a lot of what you're doing your own thing, but a lot of it mirrors things I have done.
Absolutely.
And it's like, you didn't ask, hey, Apostle, can you help me launch this course? You just watched, pivot. watch, pivot. But I also believe there's a supernatural flow. And it's interesting because I've had other people that they wanted that from me, and God just didn't, he just didn't release it. It's like they go launch a course and it crashed and burned.
Right.
He just didn't release it. And I think if we can ever realize proximity and alignment are critical. Same for me, like I'm here in Belize and I'm telling like my staff at home, guys, I really don't want to travel no more this year. And I'm getting invitations. And I'm not saying this boastfully. I thank God that any pastor, if they have 10 people, would count me worthy of speaking to their sheep. That's a huge honor.
Yeah.
But like, you know, all the way back with Dr. Hayes, what did he have? He had a travel ministry all the time. What do I have? I've had consistently all of my preaching career a travel ministry.
Right.
Without effort. You all never see me put a now booking. Never, not one time.
Right.
And what was on him came on to me.
Absolutely.
And so I believe that's so important. You know, when I connected to Apostle Eckhart, I had a dream about Apostle Eckhart surrounded by money. When I first had this dream, I really wasn't sure about it. I didn't question it was a negative dream. I was praying. And then I came to realize, like, he has a prosperity mantle. I was prospering to a degree, but like my economy went boom within 2 years of connectivity to him. And it was nothing. He didn't sit down and say, I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm gonna show. No, it wasn't that.
Right.
It was that alignment.
Right.
So I think that you've touched on a critical point. Your whole life can shift.
Absolutely.
When you get where God says and stay where God says. I'll say one last thing. I remember, so later in Dr. Hayes' life, there was an issue I was having with some of his staff. Make a long story short, in my opinion, they were very Jezebelic. The picture would be this. He's a global voice. He's traveling all over the world. But on certain things, I'm dealing with the staff and not with him. So they're literally tormenting me.
Yeah.
Very bad. I mean, I don't want to go into it, but very bad. One day I'm sitting at the desk and I'm thinking about this and I'm saying, I just can't bear up under this anymore. And so I'm contemplating disconnecting the alignment and doing it in a way of saying, like, I always going to honor you and what you contribute, da, da, da. But in my mind, it's like the whole thing of follow peace. I'm just trying to get into a place of peace. And so God speaks to me and God says, Ryan, did you connect yourself with him at 17?
Come on. Come on.
I said, no. He said, then what would make you think you have the authority
Come on.
to disconnect yourself from where I connected
Wow.
you? All right. And that thought
Yeah.
never entered my mind again.
Come on.
I said, that is the end of that.
Absolutely.
And I was connected to the man of God
Yeah.
when he died. In fact, I was in South Africa preaching when he was dying. I was preaching and didn't even make it back for the funeral, is how it all happened. And his granddaughter said, called me and said, Papa will not die. He needs to talk to you.
My God.
Now, he was kind of comatose. So she's FaceTiming me so I can speak to him and release him.
My God.
That was the depth of
My God.
the connection.
Jesus.
So it's critical to stay aligned.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And I've felt that all of the years, and I've seen you walk through very difficult things with different ones that have come through as spiritual children. And I've been around for just a lot of that all throughout the years. And I can remember, and I know I've sent it to you at least 2 or 3 times, and I would go back and get a screenshot of it. Do you remember when I sent it to you and I said, if I ever get it into my mind that you're no longer my spiritual father, send this back to me and tell me, eat my words.
Yeah.
And I mean it. And that's not me saying I'm never doing this, I'm never doing that.
Right.
We're always going to be led by God. But I don't feel like God is a mind changer. I don't think he changes his mind. So it will take a lot for me to even convince myself that I heard something contrary to what he said in the first place. And I don't care what kind of confirmations or all kinds of stuff that comes around. And I've had things to approach me. Even in the recent month, I had things to approach me. I don't think you're with the right stream and this. And well, what does that mean anyway? I have the record of what God said to me. I cannot now question what I heard God say. And so we have to be so sure about these relationships that we're entering into, and when we say that God has placed us into them. So I'm going to let you give any final words you want to give, and we can wrap this up.
Okay. Well, I would just say this. Relationships are God's transportation system. When he's trying to get something to you, he'll typically do it through a person.
Come on.
Every relationship requires definition. Recently, 2 times, I've had two different individuals come to me and say, I'm connected here, connected there. One lady said, God told me you're my spiritual father, but so-and-so is my apostle. And I'm going to move to your location, but I'm going to maintain this. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. Then another lady said a very similar thing to me, and I told her no. And I didn't say no from rudeness. You're just showing me you have a spirit of confusion, because how's God telling you at two different, oh, I'm going to be, Yolanda's going to be my apostle and Tay's going to be my spiritual father. Maybe like later in life something could unfold like that, but you're going up front. Nah, you either got schizophrenic mindset or you're opportunistic and you're trying to figure out how can I get the most portions on my plate. I don't just want the mac and cheese. I want the rice and beans too. That's what you're trying to do. So I think all relationships require definition. Some people are mentors. That's it. They're intended to get you up to another level. Be slow to say so-and-so is my spiritual father, because you can't take it back.
Yeah.
And if you do it 5 times in 5 years, you now begin to look foolish to people. And I think it's a manifestation of internal pain, and you've got to get healed. So honor relationships, discern them, define them, and then realize that friction is a normal part of living, and it's actually a healthy thing. All friction is not bad friction. Those are my final thoughts.
Awesome. Listen, y'all, this has been good. Make sure you share this broadcast. So many people need to have this. I'm going to upload this to YouTube as well so that other people can get it. Rewatch it. If you're struggling in the area of building covenant relationships, I would replay this and take the keys that you've heard. And I don't think I have a greater example of what you have and what you lived out with your spiritual father from you're a teenager.
Yeah.
Until he went on to be with the Lord. And so that always fuels me and encourages me. So I just want to say, bless you guys, love you guys, and I'll see you guys next time. We got to continue this conversation. I know we're going to be talking about it a lot more. But blessings to you, and have an amazing, amazing day.